Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today's story is going to be about a boy who spilled some paint. But this was no ordinary paint. This was magical invisible paint that could make anything disappear. Will our hero fix the mess he made? Let's find out. Bartholomew Buckleberry the first hated chores. He hated cleaning his room, hated doing his homework, and especially hated painting his fence. Every summer, his father, Archibald Buckleberry II, would make him paint the fence around their property to keep it from falling apart. It wasn't exactly fun, but at least it was just a regular old fence. That was until this year. This year, Mr. Buckleberry had decided that they were going to have an invisible fence. But why? Young Bartholomew had asked. Because, said his father, it will be the most modern fence on the block. So off Bartholomew went to the hardware store with his father to pick out the invisible paint. At the store, Mr. Buckleberry told the clerk that he wanted enough paint to cover 100 feet of fence. The clerk looked puzzled. You want the invisible paint? Are you sure? This stuff isn't cheap. Yes, I'm sure, replied Mr. Buckleberry. The clerk shook his head and rang up the massive amount of money for the paint. Then Mr. Buckleberry and his son were on their way home. When they arrived back at the house, Mr. Buckleberry got out the paint and started painting the fence. Here, he said to his son, why don't you paint the other side? So Bartholomew got the paint and started painting away. Only he didn't realize how slippery the paint can was. And before he knew what was happening, his hand slipped and the can fell right out of his hands. He tried to grab for it, but it was too late. The can hit the ground and splattered paint everywhere. Not just on the fence, but all over the sidewalk, the road, and even on a passing dog. Startled by the commotion, Bartholomew dropped the empty can and ran inside to get away from the mess. His father came out to see what had happened and was furious when he saw all the invisible paint on the ground. Bartholomew, he boomed, clean this up right now. But when Bartholomew went outside, he realized something strange had happened. The paint didn't look like paint anymore. It looked like thick fog. And then he put his hand in front of his face and he couldn't see it. Was the paint supposed to do that? He wondered. Well, he didn't have time to think about it because his dad was yelling at him to get started on cleaning up the mess. Bartholomew started to clean up the paint, only he couldn't see any paint. How was he supposed to clean it up if he couldn't find it? Maybe he could feel it. He put his hand on the ground and wiggled his fingers. It felt like sand, so he started digging, and that's when he heard a voice. What are you doing? Startled, Bartholomew jumped and dropped his shovel. Who said that? The voice said again. What are you doing digging up my garden? Startled, Bartholomew looked around. He was in a garden, and there was a woman standing there with a watering can. She looked very angry. I'm sorry, stammered Bartholomew, but your garden was covered in invisible paint. The woman gasped and looked down. Sure enough, all the flowers and bushes were gone. Oh, dear, she said. I hope the paint doesn't come off on my clothes. She dipped her finger into the paint and rubbed it on her dress. Sure enough, the whole bottom half of her dress disappeared. Oh, dear, she said again. Well, I better go get changed. And with that, she walked into her house, leaving poor Bartholomew alone with his gardening gloves and shovel. Now, normally, Bartholomew would have been happy to run away from his chore. However, he had just made a lady's whole outfit disappear, and he felt bad about it. Plus, he knew his dad would be looking for him, and he didn't want to be yelled at for running away. So he started to look for another way out of his mess. That's when he heard a loud meow. Startled, he looked around to see where the sound had come from. And that's when he saw a cat whose tail had been painted by the invisible paint. The cat must have wandered into the yard while the paint was still wet. The cat looked at Bartholomew and meowed again. Then to Bartholomew's surprise, the cat spoke. Can you help me? He asked. My name is Mittens, and I need your help to find my friend Spot. He was playing in the park across the street when this happened, and I haven't been able to find him anywhere. Sure, said Bartholomew. I'll help you find your friend." So together, the boy and the cat set out to find the missing dog. When they reached the park, they found a very confused dog sniffing around a tree. "Spot!" called Mittens, and the dog perked up its head. It wagged its tail, but its tail wasn't there. In fact, the whole bottom half of the dog had vanished. "Oh, dear," said Mittens. "We better get you home, Spot. You can't stay here alone." But Spot wasn't having it. "I don't want to go home," he barked. "My family will never let me play outside again." "Don't be silly," said Bartholomew. "They won't know what happened if we take you home quickly." And with that, he scooped the dog up and carried him home. When they arrived at the house, Spot's family came out to see what the commotion was. They were very surprised to see a boy holding a dog that seemed to be missing half its body. "What happened to our Spot?" they cried. "I found him in the park," said Bartholomew. "And I'm sorry, but I can't bring him back." "Why not?" asked Spot's sister. "Because," said Bartholomew, "if you let him go outside again, he'll end up getting more paint on him and disappearing completely." Spot's family gasped. They didn't want their dog to disappear completely, so they thanked Bartholomew for saving Spot and sent him on his way. Now, it was time for Bartholomew to go home. He had done a really good deed today, and he hoped his dad would be proud of him. But when he opened the door, he was met with a very angry face. "Bartholomew," he said, "why did you leave the house?" I'm sorry, Dad, but I couldn't clean up the paint. I couldn't see it." His dad sighed. He knew that it wouldn't be easy to explain to the townspeople what had happened to their beloved fence or to the people whose gardens had disappeared. He also knew that it would be hard to repaint the fence now that it was invisible. But he knew his son hadn't done this on purpose, and he was very proud of how he had handled himself. "It's all right, son," he said. "We'll figure it out." And together, father and son went out to face the music. The next morning, the town gathered together to see what could be done about the invisible fence. A lot of people were upset, but after hearing Bartholomew's story, they understood that it wasn't his fault. They also understood that they were going to need some help cleaning up the mess. So they all set out to find the magical paint and fix the mistakes that had been made. As for Bartholomew, he was very nervous about facing the town, but his dad put an arm around his shoulder and said, "It's all right, son. We'll get through this together." And together they did. With a little bit of effort, they were able to find the rest of the magical paint and fix the fence. And once it was done, it looked even better than before. The town was very happy with the new invisible fence, and they thanked Bartholomew for fixing the mess he had made. As a reward, Mr. Buckleberry took his son out for ice cream and told him, "I may make you paint fences for the rest of your life, but I'm also very proud of the kind and helpful person you are." And Bartholomew knew that no matter what he did, he could always count on his dad to be proud of him. The end.